He's fought on one of these MVP fights before. He's Chris Avila, representing the Nick Diaz Academy, going up against Dr. Mike Varshavsky, who's a social media sensation. He's one of the best guys on the internet. Do we have Dr. Mike and Chris Avila coming up? Here they are. For all things medicine and fighting as well. Won his amateur debut back in May, and there's Chris Avila representing NDA. Then we'll move along to another fight that I don't know if we ever thought would come to fruition, but here we are. We're about to see something very interesting and something very unique. It's Uriah Hall, the former UFC fighter, the former Ultimate Fighter finalist, the former middleweight contender, a man who has a win over the likes of Anderson Silva, among many others. The pride of Queens, New York, going up against one of the best running backs of the last decade, most notably for the Pittsburgh Steelers, coming off his knockout win over Adrian Peterson, Le'Veon Bell, Uriah Hall. They'll be meeting the second fight on the main card. Now, I talked about the hardcore boxing fans. We've got you covered as well. These two individuals first met back in 2016. They fought to a split draw on a showbox card. They'll be running it back here about 6 years later. It's Antonio Nieves representing Jake Paul's hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, going up against Alexandro Santiago. Antonio Nieves and Alexandro Santiago, a great bantamweight bout. Two high-action fighters will be competing on the third fight on the main card. Antonio Nieves and Alexandro Santiago. Thank you very much to them as well. I can't wait for this next fight. This next fight involves one of the hottest prospects in the sport of boxing. He is just 18 years young. He is undefeated. He's a man who, a long time ago, Floyd Money Mayweather said, that guy is the future. Well, it appears as though Jake Paul and his team at MVP agree, because he's the first prospect signed to MVP. He is Ashton H2O Silva, going up against the veteran Braulio Rodriguez of the Dominican Republic. H2O and Braulio Rodriguez. Can't wait for that fight. And of course, the big one, the headliner, the main event. It's the old school versus the new school. It's one of the greatest fighters in the history of mixed martial arts, one of the greatest champions in the history of mixed martial arts, going up against the problem child. It's an unbelievable spectacle, and I don't think anyone really knows how it's going to go down. The good thing is, on Saturday, we will get the answer to that question. It is Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva. Jake Paul, there he is, Anderson Silva. And Jake Paul. Hello, Anderson. Good to see you. And the great Jake Paul. Good to see you as well, Jake. Looking dapper as always. So here they are, all 10 fighters competing on the main card, headlined once again by Jake Paul and Anderson Silva. Now, we will talk to these individuals. I know you all have a lot of questions for them as well. I have a lot of questions for them as well. I'm usually sitting right over there, so I can't wait to see how this final press conference goes down. But before we get to everything, let us hear from the man who made all of this possible, the president of Showtime Sports, Mr. Steven Espinoza.
Thank you, Ariel. First, I'd like to acknowledge a couple of very special people here today. In my career, I've been fortunate enough to work with some of the all-time greats, Floyd Mayweather, Mike Tyson, Canelo Alvarez, many others. But I'd be lying if I say I wasn't honored and really impressed at this special opportunity. An honor to be working with two of the all-time greats in MMA. Obviously, in the main event, Anderson Silva. It's a pleasure to welcome him to Showtime. And also, as part of our broadcast, George St. Pierre, one of our commentators, specially added for this show. And as a lifelong combat sports fan, it is an honor to have two of these all-time greats, two of the best athletes in the sport, and two of the really founders, the people who put MMA on the map worldwide. So it's a pleasure to have you here. As I've said, I've been a lifelong boxing fan. I've been in the sport working for almost 25 years. I've seen a lot of things, a lot of unusual things, a lot of unexpected things, but I never would have predicted an event like this. Jake Paul, 5-0, 4 KOs, headlining his third pay-per-view on Showtime pay-per-view, his fourth pay-per-view overall. He was the 2021 Breakout Fighter of the Year from Sports Illustrated, highlight reel knockouts, bringing a new fan base to the sport of boxing, facing Anderson Silva, one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. People ask all the time, it's probably the question that I get asked most about these events, why? Why Jake? Why put 35 years of credibility in the sport into this event? Well, for those of you who've spent any time with Jake, you will see that he's demonstrated a dedication to the sport, a respect for the sport that really can't be denied. He promised us at the outset of his deal that he would be taking on a tougher challenge with each successive fight, and that's exactly what he's doing. He had 2 attempts to face an established professional boxer, which through no fault of his own, those didn't happen, and now he's taking on really his childhood idol, his toughest test of his career. And I may be giving away his secret, but to tell you the truth, there are some on Jake's team who advised him not to take this fight. I think he's a little bit crazy, taking on Anderson Silva at this point in a young boxing career, but that's exactly who Jake is. He's a bit of a unicorn. Usually in this sport, we take someone with an accomplished amateur career and we try to make them popular. Take someone with boxing skills and try to expose them to the world and build an audience. Jake came into the sport with a huge audience that he's worked over a decade to build. And now we are seeing him establish his boxing credentials right in front of our eyes, and it has been a fascinating, very entertaining watch. But Anderson Silva is a unicorn as well. The size, the skill, the strength, one of the best resumes ever in the history of the sport. So this is, quite honestly, an event which I wouldn't be surprised at any particular result. I don't think anyone can tell you what to expect. We've got a fantastic undercard with some great young fighters. Expect all action all night. We know Phoenix and Glendale are great fight towns, and we're looking forward to, if not a sold-out event, very close. Jake did a sold-out event in Cleveland, one in Tampa, and I think with this strong of a card, we will have a phenomenal crowd. Reminder, it all starts on Saturday with a live stream of the prelim fights. That's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and then, of course, the spectacle of the year, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you on Saturday night. Thank you.
All right, let's get this party started. Just have a couple questions. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. Jake, good to see you. It was nice to squash the beef earlier. I like the sunglasses and the whole look.
Thank you.
Are you trying to take the microphone away? What's going on?
I don't know, because they're in weird positions, right? Like you can't.
You
talk.
can lift it up if you want.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me like this? All right.
I was thinking about something, Jake. He has an incredible resume. Anderson Silva has done it all. He has fought them all. He has won so many big fights. Greatest start to a UFC career ever, and that record still stands. Is it possible that you, at just 5-0, actually has more pressure on his shoulders than Anderson Silva, the guy who's crossing over to fight the youngster, but there's so much more that you want to accomplish in this sport? I'm wondering if you actually feel like you have more pressure on your shoulders.
For sure. Definitely. Just being the A side and, that alone, and the amount of shit I talk to people, I think the whole MMA community is waiting for me to lose. They want me to lose. I just have so many more big ideas and big plans in this sport, and I plan on being here forever. So this is the start of that, and the pressure's on. I'm the young guy, and he's really, really good. So, and has more experience. He has the weight, he has the height, he has the reach. So really, all the odds are stacked against me.
Anderson, good to see you. Stephen mentioned that there are some people actually on Jake's team who thought this is crazy. What are you doing? It's one thing to fight the guys you fought in the past, but Anderson's a different level of striker, and you're actually the only one that he has fought that has a history in boxing. Do you agree with those people? Do you think this man is crazy for fighting you?
Wow, for you come to fight this man of how the combat sport, you a little crazy. I'm a little crazy too.
But you enjoy that kind of craziness, I would imagine.
Absolutely. This is not for everybody, Everybody here, these guys here is special guys, And for sure, everybody here is a little crazy.
When you watch his training footage, Jake, when you see him on the mitts yesterday at the open workouts, this is a different level of striking, right? Different level of speed. What goes through your mind?
Yeah, very, very fast, very rangy, very technical, good defense, good movement. I'll have to be perfect on Saturday night, and I know I'm capable of doing that, but it is going to be a very, very tough test, and I'm ready for war. And I think, skill aside, it might come down to who wants it more, and I believe that is me.
Do you agree with that, Anderson? Do you think he wants it more than you?
That's the competition, Everything is possible, but I training hard for make a good show for everybody.
One last one from me to you. We've seen you on so many big stages before, the Rich Franklin fights, the Forrest Griffin fights, Damian Maia, and later on the great fights that you had. I'm wondering, a win over Jake Paul, considering where you're at in your life, in your career, in this new sport, newish sport now for you, where would you rank this accomplishment? If you win on Saturday, where would you put that amidst all the great things that you've accomplished in your fighting career?
Well, I think is a very special for me. But I believe after that I go to Dubai to fight jiu-jitsu, and I think is a challenge come to everybody here, and come the new challenge for Jake too. And I'm feel this come very special for everybody here,
This guy's not slowing down. He's already got his next fight booked. He's going to Dubai. I mean, geez, Louise, 47? Look like 27, Anderson. You look fantastic. You've been working with Dr. Mike over there for some of that.
I try to do my best, because I love fighting. I love my job. And now I'm free to do everything I like to do, And I talk to my jiu-jitsu coach in Dubai, Ramon Lemos, in Abu Dhabi, and I go to the tournament, jiu-jitsu tournament with the gi.
C-level Kane, motivated BJ, free Anderson, a very dangerous fighter. I think we're starting to learn that. All right, let's go to the media for some questions here. Got a microphone right over there. If you don't mind, I've always wanted to say this. If you don't mind, saying where you're from, your outlet, I think that's very official.
Yep. Andreas here with the Sporting News. Jake, this question is for you because you're not just a fighter, you're also a promoter. We've seen a fourth quarter that didn't get Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. We're not getting Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis, but we are getting Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva. What is your message out there to the boxing world for the fans that want to see the biggest fights being made, and it seems like you're continuing to make them?
Yeah, get these fights done. Stop shooting yourself in the foot. Stop being greedy. Give people what they want. You don't look at every term in the contract and try to change it. Just fucking fight. You spar every day. Why not get paid fucking tens of millions of dollars to do it in front of people? They're very scared to risk their undefeated records, but boxing needs these big fights. Don't let your manager stop you. Don't let your promoter stop you. You got to be in control.
Question for Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon, 5 years ago I told you that you'd be fighting an MMA fighter on the undercard of one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time, and a social media maven, and a doctor coming off of a knockout of an NFL player. What would you have told me?
I'd have said you were wild. I'd have said you're a wild man. I didn't obviously plan for that to, happen at that time 5-6 years ago, but over the course of my NFL career, me picking up boxing as extra cardio, I just fell in love with it, and then, once I started sparring and, actually competing with other, fighters and things like that, I knew this was what I wanted to do.
Keith Heidick, BoxingScene.com. My question is for Antonio Nieves. Antonio, can you put into words what it's like to finally get this rematch with Santiago and also to get it on this type of platform?
You know, when we fought 6 years ago, he was a last-minute opponent to the card that we were fighting on, so I didn't know much of it. And the fight came into a draw, so now being here in this big event with Jake Paul from my hometown, Cleveland, Ohio, you know, it means a lot to me because we're definitely we already know what he does. He's not a last-minute opponent, so it's gonna be a better fight, and we're looking for the victory.
Love that Keith asked Antonio question. That's the hardcore boxing community. Well done, Keith. Who's up next?
Question for Uriah Hall. Danny Segura with MMA Junkie. Uriah, you're obviously a big favorite going into this fight. You have way more combat sports experience than your opponent. Do you feel any pressure that you have to do something dominant, that there's nothing but domination expected from you?
Yeah, this is awkward. You know, a fight is a fight. You know, it changes when you go out there. Sometimes you have to adjust. We're both athletes at the end of the day. I know he's a powerful dude. I know he's confident. You can't really focus on those outside negative affirmations. You got to stay present, and that's what I've learned from my experience doing this. I got to be present, and I'm just looking forward to have some fun. He's good. It's a challenge for me. It's a step up. It's outside my comfort zone, and I love that. I love a challenge.
Great to see you back, Uriah. Welcome back.
Jake, Norm Frauenheim, 50 rounds. Welcome to Arizona and welcome to David Benavidez' neighborhood. My question is, I noticed that you mentioned Benavidez yesterday or sometime this week as a fighter, as your favorite fighter, and somebody that you would like to promote. I think he's tied to a promoter now, but what if he said, let's fight?
Me and David? Man, I'm not ready for a world champion at his caliber yet. But I don't know. I haven't thought about that possibility.
I mean, could you envision that someday?
I don't know. I think...
I mean, he can't find anybody to fight him.
Yeah.
Nobody will fight
You're
him.
going to have to keep looking.
Radio Raheem. Jake, this morning you posted the problem child activated, and we've seen you talk about your meditation and this different kind of Jake Paul who's coming up. What is the difference between, if this is an alter ego, the problem child, and the Jake Paul that you are on a normal basis?
Yeah, I think when you get into that ring, you got to be ruthless, savage. You got to, be willing to do whatever it takes going through those darkest moments in the ring. You have to be a killer or you will be killed. And so that's where the problem child comes from. I'm a problem for anyone that's in the ring with me. And I can put you out at any second. I don't give a fuck. I'm a different person. I don't care about consequences when I'm in that alter ego. And I come alive. I come alive when I'm in that ring. And it's not, it's not Jake, it's someone else that I tap into.
And Anderson, you're referred to as the GOAT of UFC. Most people agree with that. Do you accept that this fight goes against your legacy, and that if you are beat on Saturday night, that counts against you as the GOAT and your legacy as a fighter?
Well, I don't believe that affect nothing in my legacy, in my journey in this combat sport. I believe in, I try to do my best to give something for the new generation, and Jake and I put on two big generations together, and people think, oh, this affect my legacy or affect the Jake legacy, but I don't believe that because it's about passion, it's about love,
Hi, Penny Buffington from MMA Fight Coverage. Anderson, I wanted to ask you if the payout for this is comparable to what you were making in the UFC, or is it much higher? And assuming that it is much higher, would you have taken this fight if it wasn't the payout amount? Would you have taken the fight just because you're fighting Jake Paul, or are you fighting for the money?
Wow, I don't. So
Damn.
Let me tell you something. Everybody asked me about that situation, you know, but I don't have problem to talking about that. And when I start fighting UFC, I make good contract. In every single fight, every single moment, I change my contract. I change everything. And I make good money. I don't have crazy life, you know, and that's I save my money, and I make a lot of money in UFC. Of course, I can't say that my last fight in Mexico, I make more money than my two last fight in UFC.
I think you spent all your money on your toys.
Yeah,
Saw that on it's a lot of
you know,
toys, Anderson.
Yeah, I buy toys.
It's a lot of toys.
Yeah, a lot of toys.
This is the Schmo with the Schmo Zone. Question for the problem child, Jake Paul. You said there's people within your team that advised you against taking this fight. So at what point during training camp do you feel like you won those naysayers over?
I would say within like 2 weeks. I don't know. Is Logan here? What? You were like, are you sure you want to do this? And then now you probably think I'm going to win, all right?
I love you too, buddy. No, definitely not. Definitely not. No. You see the movie Hockey and Apollo? You see that when the guy's training and the last scene in the movie, they both give the punch, but you never know who's the win. Maybe next. No.
Sorry, sir, can you please identify yourself? What's your outlet? Anderson, you need to join. This is what needs to happen now. I'm getting too
But
excited.
Logan was like, yo, are you sure you want to do this? It's Anderson Silva.
Anderson needs to join the bloodline after all of that smack talk and go to Saudi Arabia.
That's crazy because everybody asks me the same. You sure you go to that? He's a Jake Paul. You sure? He's beating a lot of guys in UFC. You think? Yeah, I say yes. I think I'm ready for that. You know, he's younger than me, but I'm superhero.
And just one last question is for you.
For the first time ever, like Logan talked more shit to my opponent than I ever did.
I love you, man. I love you.
Spider, future UFC Hall of Famer, got one question for you. GSP, he's added to this broadcast. We never got to see the legendary matchup in MMA. Any chance you get through Jake Paul, you will campaign to face GSP inside a boxing ring?
Wow, I think that's good. You know, that's wow. First of all, you need to check it out. The GSP is out the contract at UFC.
Oh.
And because I think GSP can come and doing something special, the same us, you know.
Two great Canadians on the broadcast, Mauro Ranallo and George St. Pierre. How about that?
I love it.
Amazing.
I love it. You know, it's so amazing.
Incredible. Shout out to Canada. Where else are we? Oh, there we go.
This one's for Braulio, Eddie Law, Cage Side Press. The Dominican Republic's going to be watching this fight. It's everywhere. What does it feel like to be on a card this big with headliners such as Jake and Anderson, and to be in there and on pay-per-view and everything?
Bueno, Braulio, ¿cómo se siente el estar en una cartelera de este calibre con todos estos peleadores y por Showtime? ¿Cómo te sentís de cara a esta gran pelea?
Primeramente quiero darle las gracias a Dios y a ustedes por su apoyo, a Jeff Paul, uno de mis peleadores favoritos. Le doy las gracias a él por darme la oportunidad de estar compitiendo en su show. Mi madre también es admiradora de Jake Paul y me siento muy bien, gracias a Dios, aquí para dar buen espectáculo.
First of all, I want to thank both Showtime and Jake Paul for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this great card. And you know, Jake, my mom is a fan of yours, so we think that's awesome. And you know, I would like to thank God also for being able to give me this opportunity, and I'm going to give the fans a show, I promise you that.
And then for Alejandro Santiago, real quick.
Wait, Ashton, are you gonna knock him out?
Of course. You already know that.
I already know. I'm sorry that your mom's not gonna like MVP after this.
Bueno, dice que te va a noquear. ¿Vos qué le respondes a eso?
No tengo nada que responder, soy un peleador experimentado, le deseo que gane el mejor. Después de la derrota con Ryan García he madurado, uno tiene que ser humilde y tratar de hacer la cosa bien para que todo le salga bien.
Look, to what he said about knocking me out, of course, yeah, like I'm not gonna really merit that because I know what I'm capable of, and I'm gonna do my best and show you guys that I'm well up to the challenge on Saturday night.
All right, Alejandro, this time, this fight, you had a full camp for it. This is not last minute fight. What's going to be different this time around?
Bueno, esta vez tuviste un entrenamiento a pleno para esta pelea. ¿Qué va a ser diferente para esta pelea?
Va a ser diferente. Yo estuve en un campamento hace 4 meses cuando la pelea se me canceló y de ahí me mandaron a Dominicana porque la pusieron para octubre, pero gracias a Dios me siento en perfectas condiciones. Le digo a Anderson Silva que lo respeto mucho, es tremendo boxeador, un muchacho joven. Él va con un boxeador bueno, yo soy bueno, gracias a Dios. No, vuelvo y les repito, no vean la derrota de Ryan García, vean toda la victoria que yo tengo antes de Ryan García. He estado en los clasificatorios mejores 10 del mundo de mi peso y será tremenda batalla. He aprendido mucho, estoy humildemente y le doy gracias a Dios por esta oportunidad y las cosas no son como él piensa, la cosa va a ser diferente en el ring.
I can tell you these things are going to be so much different than when I was fighting against Ryan Garcia. I had a full training camp, 4 months, and I'm gonna be ready to redeem myself. That's my goal, because I feel like this time around I did everything I had to do to be able to prepare for this fight and to show the people that the Ryan Garcia fight was an outlier, that the real fight is about to come up.
Okay. This is for Santiago. This time around, obviously, same question, but you have a full fight camp. It's not a last-second fight. And then, in addition to that, what's it like to fight and be viewed by the entire country of Mexico to watch you fight?
Bueno, tus sensaciones para Alexandro para esta pelea que va a ser vista por todo el mundo y además, ¿qué se siente representar a México en este gran escenario?
Muy agradecido, muy contento y motivado de formar parte de esta cartelera y pues a demostrar de qué estoy hecho. Gracias a Dios vamos a tener un desempate que ya tuve con Nieves y pues vengo muy bien preparado y contento de representar a México y de mostrarles quién soy.
I couldn't be more thrilled to represent Mexico. I'm so excited, and I'm glad that I'm able to have this grudge match to decide who of the two of us is truly better. I can promise you that I'm going to represent Mexico with all I have, and this fight is going to be great. I can guarantee you that.
If I could just jump in real quickly, Jake mentioned that his team said that he was crazy initially, or I guess it was Logan who said that for taking this fight against Anderson Silva. I was thinking of Dr. Mike. Did your team say the same when you said that you were going to fight a guy with almost 20 MMA fights and a bunch of boxing fights on his record?
I think when I told that to my patients, my doctor colleagues, they were considering admitting me to the psych ward. But once they saw my passion for the sport, the reason why I fell in love with boxing, as I said in earlier interviews, 2010 was a rough year where I lost both of my grandparents and my mother. It was a dark time, and boxing allowed me an escape from that dark time. For the last 10 years, I've been practicing boxing as a hobby, as a way of fitness, and over the last year and a half, I've committed to the sport, sparring, training, had my first sold-out event in Tampa, Florida, 10,000 people, over 100,000 pay-per-view buys as the main event, won every single round on the judges' scorecards, and I'm looking to do even better on this event.
And he's a very humble guy. It is worth noting, shout out to Dr. Mike, worth noting that he is donating his entire purse to the Boys and Girls Club of Harlem, right? That's correct? The entire thing, 100%. So shout out to Dr. Mike.
Jack Big from The Sun. I've got a question for Ashton. Ashton, at the moment we've got a lot of young upcoming American stars in the sport. Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Shakur Stevenson, list goes on. How quickly in terms of years or fights do you believe it will be until you're sort of mentioned alongside those names?
I'm honestly not too sure, but I feel like it will be in the next 2 to 3 years. I mean, look where I'm at right now. My 8th fight, you know, we're co-main event with Jake Paul. You know, the rest of my team kind of believe that I feel like in the next 2 years that we'll be up there fighting, you know, for a belt or somewhere, you know, be a contender for one.
And what is it that separates you from the rest of the pack?
From what?
What separates you from the rest of the up-and-coming talent?
I mean, because I'm H2O, I feel like it's kind of self-explanatory.
Splash.
I believe the nickname originally comes from Bruce Lee, right? Because you flow like water out there?
Yeah.
Anderson Silva.
Perfect record, too.
Yeah.
You know, not a lot of those guys in that weight division are getting knockouts.
Cool. That's a cool nickname, right, Anderson? Like Bruce Lee, H2O is his nickname.
Yeah, it's a good name.
No, thank you.
But you know, you have a lot of responsibility with this name, you know? You know that, huh?
Yeah, of course.
All right, perfect.
I'll take care of it.
Yep.
What's up, guys? Dylan Rush with Fight Club. This one's for Chris. How has this fight week differed from previous fight weeks in your career, whether it be with Bellator and UFC? And what has been your favorite part of this overall experience so far?
There's not a big difference between any of those fight Bellator or UFC. It's just another fight week for me, and yeah, I'm taking it just taking it as it is.
And you probably know better than anyone, as a part of Nate Diaz's army. You see Nate Diaz fighting that man right there one day, Jake Paul. You see him get in here in the boxing ring one day.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got options. It's up to him. You know what I mean? Asking the wrong guy.
Thank you.
I can't help myself. Part of the theme of your last few fights has been bets, Jake. I'm just wondering if this time around, are we going to do that, or?
I have a bet.
You do?
I have a bet.
Wow.
I have a bet for you, Anderson.
For Anderson, okay.
All right. It's a good one. It's a good one.
No.
All right, so look. If you win, I'll give you something that you probably want.
Okay, you start again. No tattoos.
No.
No tattoos.
No, if you win, I will fight you in an MMA fight.
Whoa!
Wow.
You're so smart because I don't fight MMA anymore. You're so smart.
Kickboxing.
So smart. I got you.
Kickboxing.
Okay. Kickboxing. All right.
Kickboxing. But if I win, me and you come together to create a United Fighters Association to help UFC fighters get better pay and better health care. You become the interim president, and we unite to help these fighters once and for all.
Deal.
Wow.
Let's go.
That's official right there. That's official. And I had no idea. That's huge. So again, if you lose, you will fight him in a kickboxing match? You're sure about this? Before we make it 100%. Kickboxing, not MMA?
Yeah. No, MMA not. No, it's too hard.
It's too hard. So kickboxing.
Too hard. Yeah, kickboxing.
Kickboxing.
Right.
And if you win, he is going to help you start essentially an MMA Fighters Association, a UFC Fighters Association.
Correct.
Not UFC Fighters Association, but MMA Association for help
All
all MMA fighters. You know?
All fighters to help them get increased fighter pay and long-term health care.
Wow. You're down with that?
Yeah. Deal.
Dr. Mike's going to jump in too. You're going to be a part of this also, Dr.
If you
Mike.
guys need a medical commissioner, hit me up.
Perfect.
No, and we need all the help we could get. You know,
Okay.
guys like Francis, Israel, You know, even Andre Ward spoke about this in the boxing world. GSP's tried to make this happen before, so we would just need all the help we could get, and I think Anderson is a great first
Absolutely.
start.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Nikisa, are you okay with that? Yeah? I just want to make sure as Jake's business partner. Okay, he gave the thumbs up. Can't wait. We're either getting a kickboxing rematch or an MMA Fighters Association. I love it. All right, that was a lot of fun, guys. How about that? Can't wait for it again. Saturday night, Showtime pay-per-view. What a scene it's going to be. You see these 10 great fighters, and like I said at the top, something for everyone. If you can't find something here that you like, I don't know what you're looking at. This is going to be great stuff. Can't wait to be a part of it. Again, Saturday night Showtime pay-per-view from right here at the Desert Diamond Arena. Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva. We're going to face off the fighters right here in front of everyone. Again, get your tickets if you're in the area. Ticketmaster, also the arena box office, and we shall see you on Saturday night. All right, let's kick this off. First fight on the main card. Former UFC fighter, Bellator fighter, MMA veteran, Stockton's finest, Chris Avila, going up against Dr. Mike Varshavsky. Here we are, kicking off the main card. The dapper Dr. Mike and the pride of Stockton, Chris Avila. All right, let's keep things going here. We've got the former UFC fighter, Ultimate Fighter finalist, middleweight contender Uriah Hall, the pride of Queens, New York, going up against the former Pittsburgh Steeler, one of the best running backs of the last decade, also a former New York Jet. It's New York versus New York, Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell, Uriah Hall. Bell coming off his knockout of Adrian Peterson a little over a month ago. Here he is in his pro debut against a man who has been competing for 2 decades in mixed martial arts, now crossing over to the sweet science. We keep things rolling along here, and we say hello to 2 men who know each other very well. They fought back in 2016 to a split draw on Showbox, the pride of Cleveland and Puerto Rico, Antonio Nieves going up against Alexandro Santiago. It's Puerto Rico versus Mexico in a rematch 6 years in the making. You okay? Two great bantamweights going toe-to-toe for the hardcore boxing community. It's Antonio Nieves versus Alexandro Santiago 2. All right, we keep things rolling along here. We say hello to one of the brightest young stars in boxing, just 18 years young, a perfect 7-0. The first prospect signed by MVP. We say hello to Ashton H2O Silva. And we say hello one more time to his opponent, Braulio Rodriguez. They're facing off in the co-headliner, El Chavo Braulio Rodriguez, representing the Dominican Republic, going up against Ashton H2O Silva. Anderson Silva, remember the name, fighting on his biggest stage yet. One of the brightest prospects in boxing, facing his toughest test in the Dominican Republic's Braulio Rodriguez. And now time for the headliner, the one you're here for. It's the undefeated, the problem child, the pride of Cleveland, the social media sensation, the one and only Jake Paul versus the greatest middleweight champion in the history of the UFC, one of the greatest fighters in the history of mixed martial arts, the man who shocked the boxing world when he fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and beat him last year, the one and only, the inimitable Anderson Silva. It's the new school versus the old school. It's the MMA legend against the social media legend. It's Anderson Silva versus Jake Paul, and the stakes have been raised. You heard it moments ago. There is an actual belt on the line between these two guys. There's a belt and a bet. And now we'll say hello one more time, one final time, to all the 10 fighters competing on this card. Main card starts at 9 p.m. Pacific. 9